Hi everybody, how's it going? I'm Jack Devine. Welcome back to another episode of Jacksnax. Today we're going to talk about how to create ambient guitar sounds. So let's talk about how to create a nice functioning ambient guitar sound in the style of Lanois or The Edge or somebody like that, okay? I like to use a double humbucking guitar in the middle position. I suppose two P90s could work too. As long as I got 4 knobs with the dedicated tone and volume, I'm really happy, okay? I like to blend a very full and robust and warm low end sound out of the neck with the bridge sound being much quieter, you know, in terms of percentage of the blend, but very clean, and then we blend it together and we get a kind of the best of both. That's my starting point on the guitar, okay? There's a few things that are happening on the pedal board which I'll break down for you that really help make this thing far easier to manage in a setting like a mix, okay? Now granted, in a studio you can keep piling on the, you know, the reverb and all that stuff and fix it after, you know, in the mix and stuff like that. But live, if your sound isn't together, man, it can just create hell on stage. So let's talk about some secrets, okay? Low end sucks when you're trying to make these kinds of sounds. You want to keep a really close eye on the low end. That said, you don't want it to be shrill. You've got to make sure it's warm still. So that's where having the 4 knobs really comes in handy. If I need a little bit more oomph out of the low end, I can just kind of blend in a little bit more. If I want more drive, definitely touching the neck pickup. Right now, both of them are, you know, down from 10. Neck pickups on like 9, and the bridge pickups on 7. Tone is 10 on the neck and 7 on the bridge. Now, I'll bring in some just regular old reverb. It's pretty long, maybe 2 seconds. Okay, but it's not that loud. Okay, and it definitely doesn't have a lot of low end to it. Again, you want your reverbs and your delays. You got to keep an eye on the low end side of things. Okay, so here we're already starting to create some space. But what we really did is we also introduced, I have it ganged on my Kemper here. So when the reverb comes in here, so does an EQ. Okay, and the EQ happens. Clocking how much low end gets taken out of the sound. So it like rolls off starting at around 80 hertz. And then it also has a little notch at about 160 or maybe a little higher, okay? And all that does is takes our starting point and kind of creates, it's a slightly leaner profile in terms of the low end content so that the reverbs don't stack up and sound all muddy and shitty, okay? So that's on the back end of the amp. The front end of the amp, I'm actually adding a little overdrive. All right, my idea is that if I play quietly, it should be quiet, and then if I play loud, it should kind of compress and collapse a little bit on those like double stops. Double stop. If I add more low end out of the neck pickup, that kind of breaking up sound is nice. Okay, but the right hand has to be able to control all that. Okay, so look out for your picking pressure with your right hand. Now, notes and note choices and stuff like that, that's all up to the player. But my suggestion is that you take advantage of open strings when you can to get to other parts of the neck. Avoid excessive amounts of vibrato and ornamentation. Let the effects and the spaciousness of things happen kind of after you're playing. Anybody who thinks that this style of play is easy is sadly mistaken. You actually have to really dedicate a lot of time to choosing the right note and not doing too much afterwards, because if you're doing all sorts of hairy vibrato afterwards, all that goes into the delays and reverbs, and it just causes all kinds of mayhem. So you gotta pick wisely and pick once. You don't have a lot of wiggle room, no pun intended, okay? Okay, so now we've got just basically like a slightly washed out tweed sound, okay? Now this reverb is just stock in the thing here. I've lowered the low end content of it, okay? And I'm going to be doing that across the board. I also like to have a little modulation effect in front of the amp. So if I can, I'll put like a flint tremolo on the harmonics, harmonic tremolo, or if you have that built into your amp, like a good harmonic tremolo. That means it's not just varying the amplitude of the signal, it's also introducing a slight Doppler effect. So there's a slight vibrato or pitch warp. Okay, it gives it a nice dreamy quality. Okay, and I've also added here a reverb that actually has, once it senses signal, it starts to fade itself in. So it blends in very gradually over, but it has a long decay. Okay, you can hear that. It's also modulated, so that means there's a chorusing effect that happens only on the reverb. You can kind of hear it bending. It kind of goes roar. It's like a detuning effect. Okay. Right, and we're already really close. So that's. Close to the sound. The only thing we're missing is these two effects, which I'll isolate. One is a dotted eighth note, okay, made popular by the Edge. Okay, so that kind of that's really helpful for creating that the motion within this line. Okay, when you've got all this effects, just focus on playing straight and let the delay kind of flesh it out. So we would be looking at. Set. Okay. Okay, so 3, 4. So you can see how that delay really kind of puts the icing on the cake. There's one more effect that's kind of built into that delay setting that has like a swell and a slight halo kind of effect to it. I guess it's like a shimmer. Hear that upper octave? It's just in the reverb, and again, it fades in. So when I'm holding down, it creates like this glow, okay? So once all those elements all conspire, there's a tremendous amount of random, like accidental beauty that happens with a sound like this. It's hard to predict what it's gonna do. You just have to kind of get used to experimenting with it and trust your intuition as a player, and then you end up learning what you're sending into the rig and how it kind of interacts with you as a player. It's an incredibly satisfying thing once it's dialed in. The one thing you got to keep in mind is the low end, though, okay? If you don't, let's just take out the EQ. It gets very muddy very quickly. Okay, now you can fix that in a studio with an EQ, all right? But I just like to handle it right here.